would you please join with me in welcoming Harry Triguboff?
Very good.
Thanks for coming.
Nice of you to come too. Seat. Very good.
Beautiful. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's great to be here, and I guess the theory of asking Mr. Triguboff to meet and have a chat was that it's often said that if you lay down with dogs, you could get up with fleas. And my theory has been that if you put yourself in the presence of gold, a little bit of it might rub off. And I mean that from the point of view of great ideas. I guess what I've found across time in meeting interesting people that have done things is that in half an hour, which Harry's been so generous to give to us today, we will definitely learn something. So I've knocked some questions together. I hope I haven't covered them all and that there'll be some left at the end. But I always ask people when I meet them, you know, was there a particular driving idea, person or event that's really had the most significant impact on your life, Mr. T?
Well, I think that this is what happened to me. I was in Australia, and I was a textile engineer. And I couldn't see any future for a textile engineer. And I was right. I don't think anybody made much out of it. So I was looking this, that, I was trying to do all kinds of things. And a friend of mine told me that his father spoke to the boss of Stocks and Holdings. And old Scheinberg told him that his son should become a builder. So he came to me and he said, what do you think of building apartments? I said, terrific idea. I went there, because I already was selling a bit of real estate, so I knew a bit. I went and I bought the first site. And I made more money on that site in proportion than I have ever made again. So I knew that this is where I have to be.
Excellent, excellent. So is there a saying that really sums up your approach to life, or a quote or motto?
Well, I think I only like to be involved where there are problems. And when there are problems, I come with an instant solution, and it's always wrong, but it doesn't matter. I get all the people around me, and I make them all think at once with me, and I promise you our solution is always the best.
Yep, as a group.
That's it. That's how you do it.
Excellent. Now tell me, and I think everyone's read enough about Mr. Triguboff not to labour through the detail of the history, but you get started, you buy this block of land, you're not a builder, you don't have any experience or university qualifications or anything like that, but you did have now this block of land. How much debt did you have on this block of land, and how concerned were you about the prospects for the first project?
Right. Well, the reason I went into it, because I knew that there was a big demand. And believe me, the demand has never changed from the day I started, which is 50 years ago or something. So that's the main thing, that there's a demand. You have to have demand. I went to the bank manager in ANZ, and I was lucky. They were training him to big things. His name was Rex Davidson. If you ask anybody in the ANZ bank, nobody ever heard of him. But he ran the bank. But he liked horses. So he told me, I'll lend you money, Harry. And when you reach the roof, I'll come with you. And I'll tell you if you're a builder or you aren't. And if you are, then I'll give you more money. Then it doesn't matter. I'll give you any amount of money you like. But that's when I'll decide. So I wait till I get to the roof. I call him there. He had a look. He looked this way and that. He says, yeah, Harry, you're a builder. Now I'll give you any amount of money you like.
Excellent. Okay, so
he became the chief lending officer of the ANZ Bank.
Right.
I don't know if there's such a title anymore, but that's what he was.
And did you stay with him for a long time?
For quite a while, but of course they sent him to Melbourne, because that's the head office.
Yep.
And then I used to go to him to Melbourne, spend with him half an hour, he'd give me another loan, come back, go back.
And off you go again. Yep. So you make it sound so simple, and when you look back, you hired a bunch of builders, subcontractors.
Well, what I did, I took a foreman, and I was lucky that the foreman was always drunk. And so here I was, stuck with this little building, and the foreman is drunk. And in those days, bricklayers were very hard to get. Now bricklayers are very easy because what's happening is there are less bricklayers required now. Before it was more. So then this young bricklayer came to me, a Scotsman, and he was a nice fellow. You see, in Scotland, the bricklayer, he's the chief contractor. In Australia, it's the carpenter. So he was teaching me what to do every night. So every night he would tell me what materials we needed next day. So I'd get the materials next day, he'd use them that day, next day, that day. And that way I learned very well because I had no other job, I had nothing else to do. I stayed all the time on that site. And I was so dirty, like worse than all of them. I was, dusty and all, but I learned how it worked. And after that, of course, I started 2, 3 more jobs at once. But already I knew from the beginning, I never started the second job until I finished the first, so as to know the whole process, how to get in and how to get out.
Excellent.
And that bricklayer stayed with me till he retired. Now his son works for me. Another son worked for me. His partner is here now today. Not his partner, the partner here. He's here. So they've been with me ever since.
Ever since. It was interesting, we were speaking before, and often people get involved as they make money in one thing. They assume that they're brilliant at everything and get involved in other activities. We've seen a lot of people not do so well when they do that. You mentioned that you stayed on the site all the time, and as I understand, in the last 50 years, you've pretty much stuck to your knitting of just building residential apartments.
Yeah. I think being clever is very good, but you must like what you do. And it's impossible to like everything. So if you find one thing that you like, then stick to it. And until you find that thing, keep looking. Because the main thing is, you have to like what you do, and then the rest will come by itself.
Excellent. So it's interesting as we look at it, it seems so natural now that you would own your own business and that it would be the success that it is. But when you started that project, did you have any intention to get into your own business and not to work in someone else's?
Oh, no. When I started, it was mine.
Yes, that's right. Was that your intention?
Yeah, I wanted to be by myself.
Yeah.
I tried to be a public company. It lasted a few months. That was not my cup of tea. I sold the shares for 50 cents. I bought them back for $1.20. Everybody was happy. No problems. Because I was in love with the company. How can I sell it?
Yeah, excellent. Now, you say that, was it as simple as somebody said to you, you could make some money in real estate, build some apartments, but you've mentioned now that you really love it. Was it love at first sight in the property industry?
Yeah, I did, yeah. I liked it, and that's very important, because if you like it, then the people in the business will like you, and they will work probably better than if there wasn't this relationship. That's very important.
And so even still now, as you build, seemingly bigger, better, best, you get on top of a project, you're still there very, very often?
Yeah. Every morning I'm there.
Every morning you visit sites?
Yeah.
That leads to asking you, what is...
I go a bit later, of course, but...
A little bit later than you did. Now, so today, what does the typical Harry Triguboff day look like?
Oh.
Is there one?
Oh, yeah. Very similar, every day similar. Well, I get up, I read the paper. Finish reading the paper, I take my medicines. Take my medicines, I go for a walk. Every day I go for a walk. Go for a walk, have my breakfast with my dog, and then I go to work. So I get to work 11 o'clock, 11:30, get to work. But then I stay till 6, 7 o'clock. I work enough hours. So then when I leave the home, the dog, the walk, I go around the jobs. Then I come to work, maybe 1 o'clock, maybe sometimes a bit later. And then I work in the office. So that's every day the same.
And that's the day. Excellent. What do you think, bigger picture issues, we were talking before, but what do you think are the most critical issues facing Australian business right now? And certainly your business?
Yeah. Well, we are very lucky that China adores us. And that's just like I like my business, they like this country. It's not only a matter of money, they like it, So that's good, so they help us. But, of course, this is still not their home. Their home is China. And even though we are very successful in selling to so many Chinese now, I always am fighting, not that I need to, because there's so many Chinese, to get Australians into the market. Because the market is good when the local people are in it and believe in it and support it. And that's what I want. And that is why I'm always fighting the Reserve Bank. Because his interest rates make it impossible for people to buy. And he knows it. And it's not he that's in fault, it's the whole group of them that runs the place, and he will leave and another will come and it will always be the same, it will never change. So this is one problem that we have, is that we must get those interest rates down. The other thing is that the money, people have lots of money in super, but they have no money in the bank. And the super funds are not built to help people buy property. So they can't afford to buy property, which they should buy. Instead, the super funds spend money on shares and other things. So I want that to be changed.
And you mentioned about, sorry?
Now the third big problem here is that politicians run the place. Very hard to be a politician and run it. A politician wants to be popular with everyone. Well, it's okay, but if you're popular with everyone, there's very little you can do. Because you want this, he wants that, what does he do? No good. So there has to be given more power to the doers, to the mechanics. And laws have to be made so that they get the power. The politicians must be prepared to let go of the power so that they can do it. For instance, it's much easier to work in Queensland than it is in New South Wales. And I think that we have sent 10 different ministers from here to Queensland to look how they do it. They come back, the people in the department break them down, it's back to normal. Now this is bad, so these are my problems. And these are the problems of the country, the same.
And what's your view? There's a lot of talk about immigration. What's your view on immigration? I've heard you talk about it before, but would you share it with the group?
Yeah. Well, we are a huge country, and we need a lot of people. Unfortunately, our philosophy is very much entwined with what they do in Europe and America and everywhere else. This is different. We are a huge country, and you can't run it with no people. I'll give you an example. They talk about mining. And if you go to Lake Eyre in that area there, you will see there are no roads, there are no railways, there's nothing there. Now you can't develop if you don't have facilities. So we must develop facilities. We won't develop them unless we have people. We can't do enough unless we have people. People must come. We need them, and it's good that we can pick. Everybody wants to come here. But it's no good picking them if they understand cricket or they understand something else. They must be useful. They must be workers. So unless we bring them, it's no good. Of course, for housing, they all believe in housing, and they all need housing, so it's terrific.
Excellent. Now, it was interesting, Mike mentioned before, Mike, that Harry has the biggest, or the tallest project in Sydney. The tallest project currently in Brisbane is about to lose the crown to himself again. But and then Mike mentioned that, are you competing with someone else, or is it an approach? Have you really just competed with yourself?
Always with myself.
Yeah.
I don't compete with others. Others don't exist for me. I don't worry about it. They tell them diversify. If you want to. I never diversified. I don't need to diversify. I stick to what I like. And I know what I can do. And I know what the country needs and what the people want. So I don't compete with anyone. They can't compete with me because, unfortunately, when they go to a certain size, they become public companies. And in public companies, they tell them to diversify. So he might have been good at doing what I'm doing, but suddenly he starts doing 10 other things, of which probably 8 are no good and he sinks.
It's very interesting. So where did you... Okay, as an insight, where does somebody, at your stage now and having had the success you've had, it's understandable that you have that confidence. Did you always have that confidence?
Always.
Always?
Oh yeah, no problem.
I get that sense. Does anyone get that sense? It's good.
Very important, very important. All of you must have confidence when you go to a bank. If you don't have confidence, then the bank gets more scared than you are. So always be confident. And now when you work with a bank, you must make him your partner. He must know everything. Give him all the problems. The bastard, let him work for it. And then when he knows your business, he's your friend. But if you run away from him, you're gone. That's the way.
Excellent. Very, very good. I think that was worth the price of a season's ticket right there. Is there anyone that you've looked at, and understanding that you've competed with yourself, but is there anyone that you've looked at that's really inspired you, whether it was your parents or a friend, someone else in business or society generally?
Well, if I look at the successful people, and I see some of them are still older than I am, now they're the ones that give me confidence. If they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah. Excellent. All right, now it's very interesting that obviously legendary American investor Warren Buffett says that he doesn't believe in diversification. He believes that concentration leads to concentration. So you share that view. In terms of your business, I read an article that mentioned that many of your managers need to, and I saw one of your people there before, turn up with one-page summaries of their projects or business plans or current status of their project. I was intrigued by that. Can you explain that to me?
Well, I take home every weekend a pile of papers that thick. See, very important. And I go through them, and some things I don't understand, some things I don't agree, so I make notes. And then next week, they fix all this, I look at it again. And so I continue looking all the time. Now, the page that we talk about, that's different. When I first started, I had 1 page, and now I have 6 pages. That's all I have. And that summarizes all the movements I have to know. But that's simple. The big pack is where it's in detail. The simple one I get every day, I get 6 pages.
And what's in the 6 pages?
Well, it says how many units we have for sale, how many we've got deposits on, how many we have exchanged, how many units we are leasing, how many units are up to the roof, how many units are started, and how much empty land I have. That's all.
Fantastic.
Money doesn't come into it. Nothing to do with money. It's just...
Okay. Now I've also read that you were very advantaged during the global financial crisis, and subsequently because you have little or no need for debt. Can you talk to us about that? You've talked about the bank being your friend.
Yeah.
It sounds like you don't need a friend anymore at the bank.
No, they need me. I give them money.
Yeah.
Best friend.
Yeah,
Even
yeah.
easier.
Yeah. So now you're a good depositor.
Very good depositor.
So how important, in your view, there's a lot of talk now globally around, suitable levels of gearing on all sorts of assets and projects.
Right.
What do you think is a suitable level of gearing on the types of projects that you run?
Yeah, it depends. When you start, you need the bank, because you can't start without the bank, 100%. So you get from him whatever you can. You should always pay him back. As you pay him back, he wants to give you more. Pay him back, you give him more. But then, when you reach a certain size, you must decide what you want to do. Do you want to work for him, or do you want to work for you? So that's when you start getting less into debt. That means that you will not grow as fast as you could. Agreed. But then it gives you peace of mind. Because sometimes when you're overextended, it's very difficult. See, the banks have a very, and that's worldwide, it's not only here. We learned from the others, actually. That's what they do. When there is a boom, when things are easy, banks compete with each other, and they want to give you more money than you need. And you grow very quickly, and then you are in a big hurry, and you grow as fast as you can. And they give you more than you first. And then something happens, and in today's world, it's not even to do with Australia, maybe. Greece, I don't know, with something that has nothing to do with us. Then suddenly a new face appears in the bank, and he says, you owe him money and you have to pay back. So I think that seeing that that could always happen to you, you should be always well secured. You should give him not as little as possible, but as much as possible. So then everybody is happy. Because you see, the bank manager who deals with you in the beginning is not necessarily the bank manager who finishes with you. So these are the things of life. But to start, you need them, grab as much as you can, pay them as quickly as you can, and then be comfortable.
Excellent. Now, Harry, we were talking before that I like cars. Some other people probably do too. I know that you've got some great cars, and one of the tensions that often we see with business people is, you know, when is the right time to buy your first Bentley?
Well, first of all, you must be able to pay cash for it, because the moment you take it out, it's not worth half of what you paid.
Yeah.
So you must understand that. So money mustn't matter to you. But I used to have beautiful American cars when I first started. Oh yes, it's very nice ones. Drive around the cross, huge cars, beautiful, very nice. But we didn't go for Bentleys, we went for American cars. I think I had every type of big American car there was. And then I went for Mercedes, but they are a bit dull, you must admit. Good car, but dull. Bentley is a very nice car. I love them, you know. You sit top there, and you sit down and everything. Of course, SUVs now have taken that away. Yeah. Before that, very nice.
You're the man.
That's how you do it.
Very good. We've got a question here. What's the best and worst client, customer, or supplier lesson that you've had? Start with the best, I guess.
No. Best time, right. So things were very tough in 1973. Citibank came into Australia, they're going to make a lot of money. And then they decided in 74 that I was broke. I proved to them I was not broke. They were convinced I was broke. I paid them all the money back. And around 75, I think it was, they gave me a check of $2 million present, because they never believed I'd pay them back. So what they did, they thought that they would stop me from building, but they couldn't, because I'd start the buildings on my money, and then I'd tell them, right, it's mortgage to you, take half-finished building. So they then started pleading with me not to do it to them. And I said, I'll do it to you because that's the way I'll pay you back. And I had a list in my office, and every day I showed them how I diminished the debt. Every day I diminished the debt, every day. I built one, I sold two. I built one, I sold two. Every day. They were so happy. That was the best relationship I've ever had. I've never worked with them since, but that was the one.
Fantastic. Very good. What's the worst?
The worst one I had, was with a subcontractor. He was a nice boy, but he was a bit crazy. Now, I have my way of paying. And he disagreed with the way I paid him. So he came into my room, and he had a gun, and it was wrapped up in a piece of paper. And it was lucky that the girl was with me there, and she saw him, and she started screaming. and I had my other fellow there, and he grabbed him. We took away the gun. Then his father came to me and he told me, you know, the boy's not right in the mind. He was a good worker, but you know, that was bad. So whenever you get a subcontractor, you must make sure he's normal.
Oh dear. Harry, talk to us about taxation. What's your view on tax? How's it affected you, and how much do you like it, or do you enjoy paying it?
Well, taxation is like this. Tax used to be easy once upon a time. We used to buy lost companies. We used to go into mining. We did all kinds of things. It was very simple. But then they decided to get tough with us. And all these big ideas disappeared. So of course, as they disappeared, suddenly I owed money to the tax. I think I owed the most money in the country at that time. And so they came to me and they said, "You owe us money." I said, "Yeah, very good. How much money?" They told me, I said, "Apple, not that much." So we worked it out, how we reduced it, and the main thing was that I learned one thing. I shouldn't assume that I will not pay tax, because those days have gone. But even in those days, I should have assumed that. Now, there were big companies who disagreed with me, and they didn't pay the tax, and they're still fighting them 30 years later. But I paid tax after we agreed on the price, and I became the best friend of the taxation department, best friend. Yeah? And since then, I'm paying him tax. But what I do, I keep lots of my properties. So if you keep the properties in this country, and the capital gain is there, you don't pay tax, which is beautiful. Only pay tax on the rent. You don't pay all the tax on rent because you have depreciation. So that's the beauty of my business, you see. I build a property, I already made a profit, I don't pay tax because I keep it. I then lease it, and then I don't pay all the tax on the rent because there's depreciation, so I pay very little tax. I do pay tax, though, on the ones I sell. Right. So what we have to do, in my case, is I have to buy a lot of empty land, because I think that I can get very good floor space ratio on the land. Because you see, the government realizes at last how important it is to have housing. So if you can explain to them that what you say is right and what they say is wrong, then you even make more money on that. And in the meantime, you keep the land, and of course, it brings no income. So that's again how you avoid, in my case, tax. That's all legal. That's how you do it.
Excellent. That was good, wasn't it? Very good. It's very good.
He likes it because he understands that well.
I understand tax.
It took me 50 years to figure it out, but he knows it.
It's very interesting. There's a great book that some French academics published on billionaires, and they studied 32 billionaires and how they became billionaires, and they said that there was a great wealth driving event at one point, and one of the ones that they have demonstrated was that tax is a huge driver. Obviously, if you can minimise paying 30+% tax, and the cumulative effect of that over a long period of time, certainly over 50 years, is enormous. So, obviously that's the business we're in, and tax is really important. Is there one thing that you think that anyone who wants to succeed in business should definitely not forget?
Well, the bigger you become, the harder you work. So if you think that by being bigger you will be able to relax, it's wrong. So you decide now. If you're prepared to work hard, okay. If you don't bother.
Excellent. Do you still sign all the checks? I did hear that rumour.
No, I don't.
No, you don't sign all the checks? How hands-on are you in the business?
Very much hands-on.
Very hands-on? Now, you mentioned before you've
got... As much as time allows.
As much as time. Yes. Excellent. What about the role of your family and spouse in terms of growing this business? How much of an impact does a business that size have on your family life?
Well, the first two wives didn't take much interest. 2 daughters, not much interest. Our grandchildren now. One, the big granddaughter, takes an interest. The other 3 are still too young. So there's still hope.
Yep.
But I hope I will change the daughters first, go that way. But you know, to change them also requires a lot of work from me. It's one thing to make money. It's another thing to make what I do attractive to them.
Yep.
So far, I haven't succeeded. But I keep trying.
You keep trying. Very good. Now you're older than 50. What are your future plans? What are your personal future plans? What are your plans for Meriton?
Well, we'll keep on doing the same thing. It's very good. And I think that still a few years left. Very good. No, built 70 stories now, 80 stories, maybe built 100.
How high can you go?
As high as the councils approve. So sometimes change their minds, a bit higher. But the problem is with building tall buildings, really, it's not the best way to make money. Because you see, when you spread the building on lower levels, say 10 floors, 12, 15 floors, you can build many at once. When you build one tall one like that, you're limited, because you can only build in that little space. So therefore, it takes a long time.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're making changes so that we can make it quicker.
Okay, now there's been some changes in New South Wales about how large property developments are approved, which we were talking about. Can you talk to us about that and also mention what happened up at Warriewood?
Right. Well, after many years, the Labour government understood, the Labour government, state government, understood that councils would not approve. And if they approved, it would be in such a way as to make sure that the developer would go broke, which is even worse. Because the developer puts his last money in, the bank gives him the money, and the rest is history. We know what happens. So they then decided that the state government would approve big projects. And that was going on very well. But O'Farrell decided that he would say that the council should get back the power. Of course, he wanted to control them in certain ways. Right? And he was thinking of cottages. Because you see, where you get approvals in cottages, nobody protests. Everybody is very happy. Because the councils, they have no money, so they approve anything very easy. What he overlooked is that the people don't want to live where we can build cottages. Cottages we build are in the wrong place. I say what we should do with cottages is renovate, rebuild, fix the old ones. We have so many thousands of them, hundreds of them, millions of them. Just fix those. Big job. Don't worry about new ones. Just fix those. But now we have the problem, what will happen when the councils will regain a lot of their power. Now I hope that we will learn how to contain that power. But at this stage, it's not sure yet how it will happen, not sure. So we might even have less production than before. That even though you can produce cottages which nobody wants, it will be difficult to get approvals for apartments which everybody wants. Now what happened in Warriewood was, they had a crazy code there. And I bought the land, and they wouldn't approve what I thought they should approve, which had nothing to do with their code. So I went to Sato, he was the minister, and Sato said, I can't do anything with these guys because they control the upper house. There was a McTaggart, he was a member, he was an independent. He was scared of McTaggart, he controlled the house. So anyway, so then they get re-elected, and now at last McTaggart is gone. Labour has control, and we come up with the same plans, which were approved by of planning, but not by Sartre. So then they saw the plans again, and they said, yeah, we'll approve it. I got approval. So then the mayor of Pittwater, which is Warriewood, decided he was going to go against us. So here was a very interesting case. I had the planning department on my side, and the council, he was like normally the developer who is objecting. I loved it, you know. It wouldn't even matter who won, but just that picture. Something I waited for 50 years, I saw the picture. The council on that side, not on this side. And now I'm on this side. I'm like the council. I got approval. It was very dangerous what I did. Because in his heart, the planning department would be on their side, not on my side. But what I did was this. Since I had the approval, I started building. And I built as fast as I could. Yeah. And then I decided, what would the judge do? Tell me to pull down the building very hard. And the council was scared to put an injunction on me, because then they would be liable to pay if they were wrong. So there they are, whinging over there. Oh yeah, I love it. You should see them whinging. Oh, I love it. Some things are worth seeing. They were whinging. And I was building and building. And I told them, have a look today, have a look tomorrow. Anyway, thank God, the judge decided we were right, 100% right, and they have to pay my costs. That's it.
Fantastic. All right, well, that's... Mr. Triguboff, I'm so pleased that you came and shared that with us today. I know that Mike's got some microphones out there, I think, to take some questions if people have come up with some questions. So the question was, what's your best tip for dealing with council? And the young lady said that she's available to be adopted if you can't get any of your children interested or grandchildren.
Very good. Right. Well, see, it's good looking. Okay, the tip with councils is this. They have a code. Now, you have to decide whether that code will allow you to make a profit. If it does not allow you to make a profit, then leave that development. I mean, this is what I'm talking to you about, fighting them, and this will come many years later. You're still too young for that. So you have to go what is... If you can't find such a council here, then the councils in Melbourne and Brisbane are much easier. So that's what you'll have to do. As for the interest, I hope that they will find an interest, and I hope that I will see you later. Thank you.
Mr. Triguboff, my name is Patrick Keenan. I'm a property developer, smaller than you in that. I kind of ask you, if you look back over your projects, you have some more successful, some less successful. Is there a common theme for the ones that go very well, looking back in retrospect?
Yeah. Well, you must build in the right place. All right? It must be convenient. Right. That's the easy thing of dealing with Chinese. They're very logical. Very easy to understand what he likes. And they're the main market. I mean, they're the ones that will buy from you. So you have to be near transport, you have to be near the city, and you have to be near good schools. If you got those three things, you can't go wrong from the position point of view. The next thing is, you have to decide on the size of the apartments. Now, you will go to the local agents and they will all tell you to build mansions. Don't listen to them. Decide in your mind what you think is the best size. It doesn't mean it has to be the smallest, it doesn't mean it has to be the biggest. But usually, big numbers, you go for 2 bedrooms, make them 80 squares, 1 garage, you can't go wrong.
Here it is. Excellent.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Harry Triguboff.
Thank you. Thank you so much.